I should have recorded this. I had this great conversation with a client, and they are great friend, great client. I don't like to give away too much about who the clients are for people that are watching that know me and would probably know the client. But anyways, just like didn't even really realize it, just got a quick question from a client whose spouse is an artist and has just kind of stumbled into someone going, hey, well, would you do that? Would you do that for me? Or then the next one's like, oh, you did that for them. Well, will you do that for me? And then the next person, and then all of a sudden, not really charging anything, and maybe you're charging a little bit. And so this year, I don't know how many, but it's enough. They're like, wow, maybe should we do a website? Should we do Facebook? And so I was talking about Amanda and what she does, and this might be really something that would be more prime for Facebook, and having a website would be good for someone to kind of more have as a checkout, meaning that would be the kind of business that you would use the website more as like, well, here's what the fees are, here's where you check out. And you might be able to do that in Facebook, but it'd be easier to maneuver by just going to a website. But anyway, so then he was like, well, I think I actually asked, well, what does she charge? And so anyways, we were walking through, and I said, well, for an artist who's trying to go, well, what is this worth? Because, artists are more, maybe most of the time, I don't know, we'll see what you think. But, artists a lot of times I think are more thinking about what they're doing and how they're providing it to somebody. And it's not that they're devaluing themselves. They're not thinking their talent's not worth it, but they're probably more basing what they're doing on what the end user, the customer, is receiving in the sentimental. And so it's like if someone passed away and now she's, doing a painting or a drawing of the person that passed away, an artist is like, well, they just passed away, or even if it was 10 years ago, and I had the greatest conversation with the daughter that's want this or whatever. I'm literally making this part up, but point is that, well, then you have to look at, though, if you are gaining popularity, are you going to now just always do these things for, $49 or $100? And if you're doing a family of 14 on something, well, how are you going to charge for that? And so for an artist, you got to figure out, how do you remove the artist? Or for somebody that's doing cakes, or someone that's selling legal services, or somebody that's selling anything, but it's a service that you do, how do you come up with a price like that? Well, a lot of times you need to come up with something standard, and instead of then having to directly confront, because someone that might be more artistic might think it's confrontational a little, to go, well, I'm seeing this photo, I'm going to do this, so it'll be, and now they're going to probably go with something that would be a price they for sure want them to pay, because they know what they can do and they know how it's going to make them feel. So now all of a sudden they make the hurdle this low for the client in all wonderful, positive ways. And at first it's like, okay, that's, sure, you're just doing it at your desk, at the office, at the house. It's not anything extra. It's one time, not a big deal. You did it after everybody went to bed, but then now all of a sudden you have one to do a day, two to do a day. So my grandfather always said, a great way to figure out what the pricing should be on something is charge more. And it's not like you'd go from $99 to $1,000, but $150, does it change anything? And it's not so much like, well, you just charge to gouge. First of all, you're charging to make money. Okay, this isn't a charity. Okay, we're not, like, if I have a business, it's not a charity. My goal is to make money and to provide a service that my client wants at a price that my client will pay, period. Okay, there's no like, well, that's not fair. Anyways, but for an artist to value, to go, well, I'm doing this, what should I charge for that? So, when you start looking at it, like for an artist, it's like, well, if you were working for somebody else, $20 an hour, so how many hours are you going to spend on that? Like as a starting point, It's like, well, I'm going to probably spend 3 hours. Okay, now is that just from when you sit down and you've drawn and painted everything 3 hours? Or does that include the time to talk to them and get the backstory and get the picture and download it, and you got to go somewhere to print it? And then once you're done drawing, you gotta do what? You gotta pack it up. Are you mailing it? What's the postage cost? Are you going to the post office? And it's not like you're charging $20 an hour, because at the same time, how's an artist charge $20 an hour, right? That's not how you do things. The same as if you're selling legal services, where you're not going to charge whatever you're charging while you're doing the legal services, the same as if you're walking something to the post office or driving to the courthouse. But you have to take that into account somehow. So you go, well, no, it's a little bit of time up front. I got to get things ready. I got to get set it up. I got to go get the paints. I've got to get got to have the supplies. I got to have the right pencils or paintbrushes. And it's going to be 3 hours plus, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes at the end. Deliver it. It's almost like, well, that's really 4 hours of time. So you have kids, you're doing this. How many can you then do in a day? It's like at 4 hours, right? Well, how many can you do in 4 hours? It might really be like, well, that's over 2 or 3 days, right? So then how many can you do in a week? Well, I guess I could do 2 or 3 of these a week, right? So then you have to look at, okay, so if you're just doing them and you get one order a month, maybe you're just charging, $147. There's some magic to the 7. But anyways, just charging $147 or whatever. But now if all of a sudden you have, 20 orders, and immediately everybody be like, oh, sweet, 20 orders. Yeah, it's like, okay, but let's go back to the time, okay? Are each one of those 3 hours? If you have 14 people in the picture, is that 3 hours or is that 7 hours? If it has one person in it, is it 1 hour or is it 3 hours? So they have to look at, well, how many can I even do, right? So when you're providing a service, you could hire somebody else, but not on artists, right? CPA firms, like, well, you could hire other people, but are they really the ones that the customer's hiring, So especially for somebody that's an artist or anybody that's kind of doing a specialty service, whether it's counseling or, they're providing some kind of consulting or, a service that's more based on that person. Okay. Products can be, okay, we have 10 people to build the product because people are buying the product. It can be that a tax return's a product, or estate planning's a product, or a financial plan's a product. But you still have to have someone at the top that's going to review and make sure it's done properly, and there still has to be a process to it. But anyways, back to being an artist, you then have to look at, okay, so maybe today you have the friends rate, so to speak, because that's mostly who's doing it. But now when you have someone from New York call you here in Oklahoma, and they're like, hey, I've got this picture and it's 4 people, an artist is like, well, gosh, what do I charge for that? What did I charge last time? So having a website that has standardized pricing on it helps the artist, helps the counselor, the consultant charge what they know they need to charge and what's worth it, because they can. Let's go back to the example. How much time is involved? How many materials? Is there postage involved? What's the amount of time? But now, are you getting busy enough that you have to hire someone that's going to help you go get the supplies, help you go get, take it to the post office? So you don't have to get too far ahead of yourself, but then you have to look at it. It's like, well, how many can I even do in a month, right? So if I can do 2 or 3 a week, that means I can do 8 to 10 a month, okay? So then you go skip ahead. All right, well, if I'm working that many hours a month, what would make me go, wow, this is really worth it? And I don't mean like $10 million. So if someone were to say, well, gosh, if I'm picking a number, $2,000 a month, for doing drawings, and you can't at all go like, oh, $2,000 a month for doing drawings, I'd do that. Okay, wait a second. We're talking about an artist who's going to spend 2 to 5 hours on each one. So when you're saying, 10 drawings, 10 paintings a month, and you're talking about, let's just say it's 2,000. I don't know. A person might say it's 3,000 or 4,000, whatever it is. So then you have to look at it. It's like, okay, so if you're going to do 10 a month, right? Then is that, you go, well, it's going to be 200 a piece. But then you go, but what happens when it's like now I have 20 people a month that want it, which is not, that's not unrealistic, let's say on something that's a real specialty item. So now how are you going to do it? So you have to price it in a way that the market's going to decide for you what it's worth in some regards, right? So what's the fair market value of something? What's what somebody will buy from a third party, and what somebody who's a third party will sell on an agreeable price, right? So friends discount's not how you should price anything. It's just, how would I sell this to somebody in New York, and how would somebody in New York want to buy this? Not how much. So in an example like this, if you then roll it back and you go, okay, well, I want to make $2,000 a month. Okay, but what if you have 20 orders? Now all of a sudden an artist or someone that's provided counseling or consulting or any kind of service, it's like, but do you even have the time now to do it quality? Because you have 20 people that want now your service. So how are you going to maintain the quality on it? Are you going to say, well, like, oh, I guess I can do 20 and I'll just hurry and do these, and now I'll stay up all night. Now I'm going to be tired and doing this at 3 a.m. And then now I'm not seeing my kids as much. And now all of a sudden you're just like, I don't even know if this is worth it, right? And then you stop doing it, right? But before you get to that point, create pricing, not for your friends and your families and people that you run into, right? Because they're always going to give maybe different pricing for that. Now, everybody will get successful enough that even with your friends, maybe even your family, you're like, I'd love to do it, but you'll either have to wait until I have this time, or I'm going to need you to pay at least this, whatever the case is. But a lot of times people will price something the way that they'd sell it to a friend. You have to price it on how you would sell it to somebody that doesn't care who you really are. I mean, as a friend, right? They need what it is, or they want what it is that you're providing. So what are they going to pay for that? And on the one hand, people are like, well, you can't charge an unfair price. It's like, that doesn't even make any sense in business. What do you mean an unfair price? An unfair price would be, I'm going to price this and no one will buy it. And that's not even that it's unfair. It just means that you've overpriced it. The way that you want to price something is, what would be a great amount for like time and a number. So if we're talking about the artist, well, if I'm trying to keep this to 10 a month and I want to make 2,000 a month, then I'm happy doing 200 a piece, let's say. But you have to go, but what if now 20 people want this? Because your 200 per probably brings in 20 to 30 people a month wanting this. And now what are you going to do? You're going to have to turn away business. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, you can order them, but it's 6 months. And then it came back and it wasn't as good. And then I decided I didn't want it. So you have to be able to price this so that it'll move. I mean, meaning you have time to do it and people are able to get it. And I'm not talking overnight, let's say on something that's artistic, but even doing tax returns or doing something that's, planning or consulting or, pick any service, right? So when you're looking at that, then you go, and I'm about to wrap up here, but you'd go like, okay, well, if I have 20 orders, how would I make that 10? Well, it might be that you need to charge double, right? How does 20 orders become 10? Because the market will only then probably bring 10 people to you. Well, probably $400, right? And you think, well, gosh, I mean, especially for a small business owner, for somebody who's providing the service, like, man, $400, I am just doing this and it's only taking me 3 or 4 hours. Is that, you have to then think, what's someone willing to pay you? Because that's really also determines the value of it. The value is, how much family time am I giving up? The value is how much effort I'm putting into it, how much thought, how much time, what else is it taking away from? And sometimes what else is it taking away from is, could I be doing something else for another customer, for another client that's going to pay me that amount? So while a small business owner, they love business coming in, they love the cash coming in, and mostly with small business owners, me included, it's like, oh, someone wants what I'm making. Somebody wants what I'm selling. Somebody wants what's up here. And so we want more of that. It's like, oh, and then we start not charging enough, and now too many people are coming in. And now what happens? Not as many people are happy. Now this person has to wait and that person has to wait longer than they thought. And then now you're dealing with maybe your quality going down. So you have to price this in a way that you can keep your quality. So in a circumstance like this, it's like, well, if you want to keep it to about 10 a month, and in my mind, 200, like you're going to have orders coming out of your ears, then it probably needs to be, $397, some power in the seven, $397. And, you're like, well, it's just a small one. It's just one person. It's like, okay, well then have your pricing, because like, well, how long does that take? Well, a half hour. Okay, well then that makes sense that maybe now for that one, it's 97. And then if there's two people, it's, 147. And then if it's three people, it's 197. And then you start going, well, maybe for every person added is another, 20 minutes, and therefore that much more time. See how numbers, even in the art world, even in artistic, even in services, you have to set prices to where you think you're going to be within a year. And then in a year, you can reset prices, but you can't reset prices just to get people in the door. And then here's how I'd recommend it. You can just say, hey, this is what it costs, but for our grand opening, we're going to take off every order, a certain percentage, right? But it's only for the grand opening, or it's only for our first 50 orders. So then a small business owner is able to get stuff in the door. It drives some kind of a market. And now these initial people are your people that if you're doing a good job for them, they're going to talk about your product and put it on social media. And then people are going to see, oh, wow, they're doing this. Look at this example. And they did that. And they did a dog. They did a parent. They did a family, whatever the case is. And now all of a sudden that's driving your rates up. But you don't want to, after 3 months, go, wow, I'm totally underpricing this. I have too much to do. Because now all of a sudden, as you got popular, all of a sudden you're not popular because you're not getting it done. So you can't price stuff where people go, oh, done. Like if you're selling something like, oh, done, you're not pricing it properly. And you have to remember, you're in it for a business. Why couldn't it be that an artist could charge $997 for something they thought was worth $197 if someone's willing to pay $997? This isn't about gigging. It's not like, oh, well, that's a Gordon Gekko move. This is a business, okay? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's to make money. It's not for somebody to go, wow, that's a great price. Well, that's probably because you're trying to run a charity at the same time. I'm just kidding around. Anyways, I digress just to say, when you're doing pricing, think of, where am I going to be in a year? What are the time things involved? What's going to be the effort? And then you can't go too dumb, okay? But you have to kind of go, where am I going to be in a year? And then work it all the way back. Total time, total effort. But part of the pricing is you can't price it in a way that you have too much to do, that the quality goes down, and then you're not even able to deliver. And so many small business owners, they're like, well, no. Do 197 and get 40 people coming in. Okay, you're devaluing it, because why wouldn't you just charge double and work on 20 of them if you're going to make the same money, right? That's where I think small business owners, a lot of times, they just think of the quantity that's coming in. Like, oh, we got 40 of them. Okay, but you're doing 40 of them, and this one was $49, and this one was $99, and $149. When you would just stop and go, you know what? I'm going to do 10 a month. How do I price that? So instead of doing 40 a month to make $2,000, you're doing 10 a month to make $2,000. Because you have to remember, what are you doing this for? It's to make money. It's to put money on the table, to put food on the table kind of thing, or to add to retirement, or whatever it is. Or even if it's not necessarily needed money, well, what's it taking away from? Okay, it doesn't matter that you love doing it. The people are like, oh, I just love cooking. I love photography. Great. That means you're even going to be even better at it. So you need to charge more for it. So this is how you, in my mind, go by the numbers, right? JJ the CPA, by the numbers. So even taking art and artistic and services and all that, it's like, how do you come up with your pricing? Then, of course, you have to look at what else is being charged out there. But like when you say an artist, it's like, what do you really compare to? And then if you just think about it too, human nature, the more something costs, typically the perception is that it's worth more. Now, when they buy it, they're going to decide if it was worth more. But the perception is, well, this must be really good. If people are buying that, it must be really good. It must be really special. And so if you could do something for $997 instead of $197, and people are going to love it, and you did 2 a month, and you made your $2,000, think of also the quality. This is also human nature. You got 2 projects for the month. Each one of them's $9.97. How much more is that artist going to spend when they're staring down $9.97 instead of $1.97? It doesn't mean that an artist would go, well, no. I mean, this one's not good and this one's better. It's just how much more detail, how much more thought before they even sit down and put pen to paper on that. So hopefully you can apply this to your business, your pricing. And if you've been around a while, this is a way to really kind of think through your pricing, what's all involved. And then at the end of the day, if you'll notice what I said, 10, 12 minutes ago, what is it that you want to make? And then work back from that. I mean, if you're selling products, like, well, what do I want to make here? How much do I want to make? And work back from there. Because otherwise, what are you doing it for? Since it's supposed to be a hobby, you're here to make money. People want what you're providing. They're willing to pay for it. The price they're willing to pay, then that's the value that it is. And if you don't value it, they're not going to value it. Think of that as a closer. If you don't value it, they're not going to value it. You put me against somebody that charges $40 an hour, and you put me over here charging $400 an hour, okay? Human tendency is like, well, I'm going to go to the 40 an hour, okay? And that 40 an hour, well, they got it done in 20 minutes. Well, he got it done and took him an hour. Well, there's probably a reason for that, first of all. And what went into it? What's the experience? So I went over here, they charged me 40 an hour, they got it done in 20 minutes, and then I got audited. Okay. Or I go over here and I didn't know that I could do this and I could do that and I could do this. And so I saved $2,000. I went over here and now I'm writing a check for $500. So you have to know the value that you're bringing. You have to stay strong on it, okay? So just as a side note, my clients that are current, they pay me $300, okay? New clients that are coming on, which I don't have any, they're $400. So when I've done some specialty consulting, it's been based on $400 an hour. I've done some specialty consulting and it's been more than that because I'm not bringing on routine clients. Long story short, value what you're providing, price it for what you want to make, and then price it that you're not overrun, okay? Now, if you're building widgets, I mean, it kind of still applies, but this was kind of mostly for services, all right? So, hey, well, listen, appreciate you tuning in. This was made special for someone, a couple special in my life, kind of walking it through, kind of regurgitating a conversation that I had, kind of more on the number side, though. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. And I'd love it if you'd subscribe. Please do. And tell your friends. Oh, and a friend told me, turn your notifications on because I do go live often. And at least right now, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, I go live answering questions. And at the end of the day, just want to say thank you. Thanks for watching.